Hello, everybody. It has been a while. I had some hardware issues, software issues, but here I am. We are now on camera again. All right, so start with a cup of cold herbal tea. This is hawthorn, bitter melon, a little ginger, a twinge of horny goatweed. Balance of yin and yang, helps reduce blood pressure, control blood sugar, all that stuff. So should be good for you, good for me. All right, so my friend from YouTube, WAMPYR, he's a Filipino martial arts, let's call him a blogger, let's call him a content creator, and he asked me what are my 5 favorite martial art movies. So I'm going to answer this in a slightly unorthodox manner, okay? Instead of picking 1 through 5 favorite martial art movies, I'm going to kind of modify the answer into categories. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I believe that some of the movies in these categories are great martial art movies for what they are, and they're neglected and they're underviewed and underrated. So WAMPYR, it's a little bit you and it's a little bit me, all right? And let's hope that my optics and my sound on this computer is everything that we need. So first I'm going to start with a category of martial art movies that you wouldn't know are martial art movies, but they definitely include martial arts, and that is Tarkan. Tarkan. I am not talking about the famous Turkish singer from the late 90s and early 2000s. I don't know if he's still active, but I am talking about Tarkan, a series of movies from the 60s and 70s made in Turkey. Now, Tarkan is an akunja. An akunja is a sort of knight type character. It's a mounted horse warrior, and he's like a vassal or a special knight type of thing for Attila the Hun. And Tarkan is a Hun, like Attila the Hun. So there is a movie in the series called Tarkan and the Sword of Mars, which is chock full of martial arts action, and it's a little campy, it's a little silly. But the idea is that the Sword of Mars is something that has magical powers, and Attila the Hun says, I need you to find this for me, and there's a Chinese warlord who also wants it. And now, it gets a little ridiculous because the Chinese warlord and his underlings, they're all played by Turkish actors, and they're in, for lack of a better word, let's call it chink face. Okay, like blackface. They're playing Chinese characters, and there's, a lot of period style dress that sort of, it looks a lot like the 5 Deadly Venom clan, right? But the guy that plays the warlord was also a credible black belt in karate, and there were definitely trained martial artists and arts on that movie. But in the other Tarkan movies, there's quite a lot of fighting, and there's a lot of like judo type action. It's very consistent. You would think that a Hun, they practice a type of Turkic wrestling, and there's also sword fighting and all kinds of flips and things like that. So it's definitely worth looking at if you can get past some of the campiness of it. It was made in the late 60s and early 70s. And I think Tarkan and the Sword of Mars was the last movie in the series. The first one, it was Tarkan and the Silver Saddle. Excuse me. I haven't made a video in a while, guys, so I'm getting a little tongue-tied. But there's just so much. Okay, there's so much campiness. The original ones had a lot of magic. There was a witch and monsters and cyclops and all kinds of stuff, and definitely worth watching if you like action a bit like the Shaw Brothers movies, okay? And Granted, Sword of Mars of the series has the most martial arts. If you want pure martial arts, the other ones are not quite gonna meet your expectations, but Sword of Mars, absolutely, positively. Okay, now, second class of movies, excuse me for a second, I'm gonna go with the Master Killer series. Right, 36 Chamber, Return to the 36 Chamber, that sort of ilk, the whole Shaolin series, all right? And I'm going to say that deserves a look from you, all right? Granted, it's a subset of Shaw Brothers movies, but how do I describe it? You know, to me, when you say Kung Fu, I think Gordon Liu, 36 Chamber. That was what I thought. That was my introduction to it as a child, beyond the Tarkon films, which I think I actually saw first. And I saw 36 Chamber, and that fixed in my mind, that is what Kung Fu is. That is what Kung Fu should look like. And in back of my mind, that image is still there. And, you know, I've done Kung Fu. I do Kung Fu, I teach Kung Fu along with other martial arts, and I think to myself, you know, what would Sante, which was the monk that Gordon Liu played, think? All right, so it's actually a part of my self-image and my ethos of what good Kung Fu should be like. You know, that sort of stoic Southern-style Kung Fu with lots of rapid hand movements and dangerous kicks to the legs and takedowns and a few jump kicks and lots of weaponry and deadly strikes, you know, going for the eyes, the throat, the jugular, and developing all those skills and almost superpowers. So, yeah. Okay, let's talk about 90s American martial arts films. I really think that is when the martial arts genre in America, in North America, and in Canada really came into its own, and it's really worth taking a look at all that stuff. And it was made by various studios, you know. But you had films with Benny the Jet, you had films with Don the Dragon Wilson, quite a few films, even the Steven Seagal movies, you know. I put them all together because they were part of the zeitgeist of America. And taken as a whole, taken as an era, I really think taking some 90s American films, American martial art films, and binge watching one to the other is really one of the pleasures in life. And you know, if you're a film aficionado, one of the ways to go. All right. So now that's our first three. Now let's get down to the last two. Okay, so from there, Hong Kong cinema 1990s. Hong Kong cinema 1990s. That was just before they started introducing some of the safety regulations and things like that. And, you know, you probably won't see anything like that again, except maybe you have CGI, but it's just not the same. I mean, so many risks were taken. It was kind of reckless. It's probably good that we don't have an era like that again. All right? It's probably good because, you know, stuntmen are human beings and they don't deserve to die and be crippled making stunts. But, you know, you had Cynthia Rothrock. You had so many different people making such crazy films. I mean, Jackie Chan was still making the films, and, you know, one thing I liked about the Legend of Shang-Chi was that I felt like I was seeing some of what I saw in the 90s again, and part of this is because they were using CGI, okay? And they could kind of afford to, you know, visually replicate these things because stuntmen's lives weren't in danger. But I feel like so many great fighters, great choreographers, and great stuntmen put so much of their blood, sweat, and tears in there, and maybe if you gave their lives, that you owe it to them as a martial arts fan to look at the work that they produced and, you know, pay homage to them. And finally, I'm going to hone it down to a single movie, okay, which is the Crippled Avengers. I feel like the Crippled Avengers is just such a unique movie on so many levels, and they did so many incredible things, and it was all shot in a long shot with, little to no wire work or anything like that. The acrobatics, the fighting, the jumping, the weird creativity, people jumping through drums and hoops and battling, and I don't think it's ever been replicated. Okay, and I don't know if it ever will. To me, there are just certain things that happen in history, certain time periods where magic enters an industry, a place, a person, a group, and then resides there and does amazing things, and then it moves on. Anybody like a golden era or golden period, and this was the Shaw Brothers era, and I just haven't seen anything like it before that period, although I've seen things that approached it, and I've seen nothing like it since. And if you were to make the Crippled Avengers again, which is kind of sort of a follow-on to the Five Deadly Venoms, which was good stuff. I love the Five Deadly Venoms, but compared to Crippled Avengers, it's actually even a little underwhelming, right? If you were to do it again, it would be done with CGI, and it would probably be maybe even more fantastic, but in a sense less fantastic, less impressive, because it's not actually being done by people. All right? They in other words, it's almost like they're plugging into something that Carlos Castaneda would call non-ordinary reality, some sort of alternate universe. And if you haven't seen it before, see it again. If you've seen it before and haven't seen it in a while, it's certainly worth a look. Okay, so guys, I'm back. I just wanted to say, there's been a lot of technical issues with my computers and everything. This is my first attempt at a video. I got COVID. I recovered, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm doing what I can to take care of my health. I feel like post-COVID, I don't know if I'm as eloquent as I was before. I'm working really hard on verbal presentation, okay? But I brought my cardio back up. I'm, back to jogging regularly, although I am not fast. I'm jogging, I'm biking, I'm doing a modified calisthenic based on the MARSOC program. I'm trying to build up to where I can do the entire MARSOC short card in one go, and if I ever get to that point, I would love to see if I could record that and post it on YouTube. But at 53, it's quite a few challenges. I recently bought some new workout clothes today, and for the first time since 2005, I now fit into a 38 waist. Okay, which that's a big accomplishment for me, and I just wish I could take it a little further. I mean, I am achieving some successes. I'm even getting a few cat calls from some of the college girls in town as I ride my bike, which that's kind of cool. All right, I'm still fat, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to the sexy end of fat. All right, so I'm just going to keep plugging away, and I really appreciate all of those of you that have watched my videos in the past. I'm hoping to make some more. I'm still at Zen's gym coaching boxing and kickboxing, and a couple of students have started taking some Filipino martial arts with me there. I like that. I'm working with one student here, Tommy, and I'm trying to teach him some of the Goju Daote karate system that I'm the only active master of left. And I'm also throwing a lot of Wing Chun in there and, some of the Southern Kung Fu, but I'm trying to give him the complete Goju Daote Karate Do system. And I'm trying to brush up on all my classic stuff, all my Goju Daote Karate Do, my Five Ancestor Fist Kung Fu, my Southern Style Kung Fu, and my classical Jiu-Jitsu, the Shobushido Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, which hardly anybody's teaching anymore since Sensei Hutchins' death. So, with the goal that eventually I would, get some students, some disciples, and pass on some of these classical systems, because I noticed that they do so much for my well-being mentally and physically and even possibly spiritually. and there's a lot of practical material, and it's also just a lot of fun to practice, and it feels good. So I'm going to salute all of you with a drink. I'm trying to work on regaining my intellectual capacity, my cardiovascular capacity, and my musculoskeletal capacity post-COVID. All right? And I wish all of you the best. Be well, my friends.